Week 7 of the fantasy football season. Here's top 12 defenses. I'm ranking this week number 1, the New England Patriots. So the Patriot defense the last couple weeks here, they're shutting offenses down. They're causing havoc. They're causing turnovers. And this week, another perfect matchup versus the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football. Justin Fields, he hasn't looked like a good quarterback in the first couple seasons of his NFL career. And this Patriot team, they're going to have him running around and looking lost in this ball game. I think they're going to get to him a few times. I think they could get a few turnovers once again. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if they hold this Bear team to like 10, 13 points in this ball game, this Patriot defense. Right now, they're hitting that second gear on defense. They're taking advantage of poor offensive lines. And it's a recipe for success, no doubt about it, for Patriots defense this week. And I got them number 1. Number 2, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So right now, it looks like either P.J. Walker or Jacob Eason going to be starting at quarterback once again for this Panther team. We saw Walker leave last week's ball game with a concussion, I believe it was. So if Eason has to start, this Tampa Bay team, I think, could be in for a monster fantasy day here at the Carolina Panthers. Because let's be honest, this Panther team has nobody on offense but Christian McCaffrey. I mean, no, DJ Moore's been a solid pro over the last few seasons, but they can't find ways to get him the football. And he's a guy you can't count on right now, especially versus this Tampa Bay defense. So right here, this Tampa team, after coming off a horrible loss in a game where they were favored by big points at the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they come into this one where the defense is going to make plays, get to Eason or Walker, whoever starts early and often, and have a great fantasy day. And I got them at 2. Number 3, the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos, if there's one thing great about them, it's this defense, and they hold teams down. We saw Monday night versus a great Charger offense, only holding them to 16 points in that one. So right now, I know they lost the ball game, but this New York Jet team's coming to town. I know they've won 3 games in a row, but Zach Wilson has pretty much been non-existent. His wide receivers haven't done anything. Tyler Conklin hasn't done anything. And it's pretty much been Breece Hall and the defense here for the New York Jets. I think this Bronco team, if they want to win this ball game and have a chance, it's going to start with the defense, and I think they can make a few plays, honestly, on Zach Wilson. A young quarterback going into Mile High, no matter what, is always a tough game for a young quarterback in the league. So right here, I think this Bronco team comes out, plays well once again on defense, and they make some plays. And I got them at 3. Number 4, the Dallas Cowboys. So the Cowboys will be getting Dak Prescott back. And in this one, it's a home game for them versus the Detroit Lions. And I know this Lion team has a lot of explosive players in Amon St. Brown, DeAndre Swift if he plays, and TJ Hawkinson. But this Cowboy defense, it doesn't matter the team they're versing. They get to the quarterback, and they're getting at least 4 or 5 sacks a week. Last week, even versus that high-powered Philly offense, they had 4 sacks in the ball game. It was the Dallas Cowboys. And they didn't get totally torched. They held them in the mid-20s. So right here, with a bad offensive line in Detroit and their home road splits totally off in terms of offense, I think this Cowboy defense can make a few plays in this one and finish with a top 4 performance. Number 5, Baltimore Ravens. So the last few weeks here, this Raven team, I know it's been leaky towards the end of ball games, blowing leads, but in terms of fantasy football, they're getting to the quarterback, they're creating some turnovers. And this week here versus Jacoby Brissett at home, Baltimore, I think they could have a good ball game, and they're playing better at home, even though I know they blew that big lead early in the season versus the Miami Dolphins, which obviously was a fluke. I think this week versus Jacoby Brissett, Cleveland team, they can make a few plays in this one. And Brissett, he's a guy that's good for a pick or 2, it seems like, each and every week. And last week, you saw the Patriots really frustrate him and have a big fantasy day. So I think this week here, the Ravens can too at number 5. Number 6, the New York Jets. So this Jet team built on defense and running the football, and this defense has been lights out over the last couple weeks. Last week, pretty much shutting down Aaron Rodgers and that Packer offense. And then a couple weeks ago, having a huge ball game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers was his Jet D. So right here in a big ball game at the Denver Broncos, where their offense has been putrid this season, I think the Jets could go in and make some plays of Russell Wilson, if he's even going to be the starter. But if he's not, Brett Rypien, it's going to be a hard ball game for him, and a game where this Jet team could even hit more than number 6 total. So this Jet team's playing great defense. Sauce Gardner was a good pick, obviously, in the NFL draft. And the Williams boys are getting to the quarterback as well. And even Carl Lawson making plays. So right here, this Jet team playing great defense. And this Bronco offense has been horrible the last couple weeks here. So I think this Jet team could have a good performance. Number 7, Green Bay Packers. I know the Packers had 2 good matchups on paper versus the Giants and Jets, but they haven't done anything as this Green Bay team. But this week here, Taylor Heineke starting for for the Washington Commanders, and we'll see if he can have a decent game. But I think the Packers, they got to get back on track, and this is a good game for their defense to start making plays and get back on that right track here after coming off of 2 tough losses where they were favored to win those ball games. So going here into Washington versus the Commanders, I think they could make Heineke make a few turnovers in this one. I think they could get a couple sacks. The offensive line ain't great over there in Washington, and this Packer team is due. Number 8, the New York Football Giants. This Giant team, another team built on defense and just playing off of Saquon Barkley in that offense over there. So they got a good matchup with the Jaguars that are middle of the pack type of offense. But I think Trevor Lawrence, he's good for a couple turnovers in this one. And this Jacksonville team, I don't know. They're just a team that started off hot. Now they fizzled out. And this Giant team 5-1 on the season, coming in with a lot of confidence. I think their defense, once again, is going to make a few stands in this game. I think they're going to make a few plays. And to be honest, Jacksonville, I don't know what type of team they are or what type of offense is going to come out in this one. So right now, I think the Giants go in there and play some decent football. And I got them at 8. Number 9, the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts, they're a hit or miss type of defense. But if Leonard could come back in this ball game for them at the Tennessee Titans, obviously that would be a plus. And Ryan Tannehill obviously is a quarterback that really hasn't done much over the last few weeks here. So I think this Colt team could have a good ball game. We know these teams played earlier in the season where it was a grinded out type of game between these two teams here. Back to week 4 versus the Tennessee Titans. They didn't do much in that game. 24 points allowed and 3 sacks. But the last couple weeks, they've been a serviceable defense in fantasies, the Indianapolis Colts. Week 5 at Denver, 13 fantasy points. And then week 6 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, 6 fantasy points. So right here, week 7 at Tennessee, I think this defense is getting going. Darius Leonard hopefully is back for them in this game. Obviously the leader on the defense. And this Colt team's starting to play with confidence here. So I got them at number 9. Number 10, the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Raiders are 1 week use only with a good matchup versus the Houston Texans. It's obviously one of the worst offenses in the league. Davis Mills, I don't think he's the answer at quarterback. But we know the Texans got a ton of picks in the Deshaun Watson deal where they could use one on a quarterback in the next couple seasons here. And also Brandon Cooks hasn't done much. The only guy on that offense I'd really be worried about is obviously Dameon Pierce. If the Raiders could stop him and make Mills one-dimensional, this is where they could tee you off and really put up good fantasy numbers. So this week here, I like the Raiders at number 10 as a 1 week use only. I think they could get a few sacks in this game. I think they could hold Houston down to the mid-teens, low 20s in this one. And I got them at 10. Number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals. So this Bengal defense has been a matchup-based type of defense to use. And over the last couple weeks, they really haven't done much. But this week here versus the Falcons in a home game, I think this defense could make a few plays and they could get to Marcus Mariota. Even though over the last 2 weeks here, Mariota's been playing pretty good football for fantasy owners in this Falcon team. But I think the Bengals get on track a little bit here with defense. I think Mariota, he's good weekly for at least 1 or 2 turnovers. And also a few sacks as well if he's holding on to the football too long or trying to make something out of nothing. So right here, I got the Bengals in number 11. They're still out there in tons of fantasy leagues at about 60%. And the 12th and final defense I'm ranking this week's the Tennessee Titans. So this Titan defense, they've been a mediocre unit this season here. But this team is well built on defense and running the football with Derrick Henry. So right now, the Indianapolis Colts do give up the 3rd most fantasy points to DSTs on the season. But the last few weeks here, it's been okay outings for Tennessee. And going back to their last matchup in Indianapolis in week 4, 17 points allowed, 3 sacks and into 2 fumble recoveries in that one. And then week 5 at Washington, 17 points allowed, 3 sacks and an into. So right here, Indianapolis gives up the 3rd most fantasy points. But like I mentioned, Matt Ryan is starting to figure things out with his new team in this offense. And if Jonathan Taylor comes back, that's another dimension to worry about. But I think Tennessee and Indianapolis, this is a grinded out type of ball game. We will see a decent amount of field goals, and we'll see the defenses get to the quarterbacks a few times. And Matt Ryan, he has been taking big hits over the last few weeks. So that's the top 12 defenses, DST units I'm ranking for week 7 of the fantasy football season.